What if I told you a man spent 45 years in prison for a crime he had absolutely nothing to do with? That his freedom was stolen by lies, misconduct, and a justice system that turned its back on the truth? Today, we're diving deep into one of the longest and most devastating wrongful convictions in American history, the case of Richard Phillips, a man who was locked away for nearly half a century for a murder he didn't commit. In 1973, Phillips was convicted of murdering a 77-year-old woman in Detroit. The crime was brutal. The community demanded justice, and prosecutors were quick to deliver a suspect. That suspect was Richard Phillips, a man with no motive, no physical evidence tying him to the scene, and only one thing connecting him to the crime: the word of another man, a man who would later admit he lied. The prosecution's entire case hinged on a single eyewitness account. That witness said he saw Phillips at the scene, but later he would confess that he was coerced by police, pressured into identifying Phillips under threat. Even more disturbing, this witness had poor eyesight and was standing over 100 feet away from the alleged scene of the crime when the murder occurred. Still, that shaky testimony was enough to send Richard Phillips to prison for life. Let that sink in. A man was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison based on the word of a witness who couldn't even see clearly. But that's just the beginning. Over the years, troubling facts began to emerge. There were whispers of evidence being hidden, witness intimidation, and even suggestions that detectives may have planted or manipulated evidence to secure a conviction. If these allegations were true, and the court would later acknowledge that they likely were, then this wasn't just a tragic mistake. This was a frame job. For decades, Phillips maintained his innocence. He filed appeals. He wrote letters. He waited. But no one listened. Until, in a shocking twist of fate, another man serving time for a separate crime confessed that Phillips had nothing to do with the murder. That confession would eventually lead to a reinvestigation. In 2018, nearly 45 years after the conviction, new DNA evidence emerged. Evidence that had never been tested. Evidence that proved beyond any doubt that Richard Phillips was not the killer. The DNA matched someone else entirely, a man already behind bars for another violent crime. It was the break Phillips had waited a lifetime for. He walked out of prison a free man. No longer inmate number 33782, but Richard Phillips, the man who had survived nearly half a century behind bars for a crime he didn't commit. Imagine losing 45 years of your life, your youth, your family, your dreams because someone wanted a quick conviction. Because no one took the time to ask the hard questions. Because the system that promised justice failed. Richard Phillips' story is more than a miscarriage of justice. It's a warning, a reminder that when we rush to judgment, ignore red flags, or prioritize conviction rates over truth, we destroy lives. One man's nightmare exposes a much larger flaw in the system, a flaw that could happen to anyone. Do you believe the justice system did enough to make it right? Or is Richard Phillips still waiting for true justice? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more true crime stories that challenge everything you thought you knew.